So I was about to say I don't have that much to talk about this week, and then I looked down and thought, actually, I've got a little bit to talk about. So this video might be longer than anyone was expecting. We'll find out. So first and foremost, this has been wet finished. This is the one that was on the loom for longer than it needed to be because I was a little bit bored with it, and I don't know why. It's a plain weave, which I love. I love doing a plain weave. But for whatever reason, this was just kind of, towards the end, it was a bit of a slog to get through, and I don't know why. So the wet finish has made this feature stripe much bolder, and that's because of the bloom and also the shrink. International signs, bloom and shrink. That's not true. I've made that up. Don't quote me anywhere on that. People will laugh at you. So blooming is just when the yarn swells. So when you're weaving, if you're going for a balanced weave, you go for a little square gap between the threads so that everything's nice and square and balanced. And then when you wet finish it, the yarn tends to, depending on the yarn of course, tends to swell up or bloom and fill those gaps in a little bit. And then shrinkage is when the yarn shrinks. I am awaiting my email to invite me to collaborate on the next edition of the Oxford English Dictionary because I think I'm very good at definitions. So basically the yarn bloomed and shrank, and that made this stripe here a lot bolder and easier to see. Maybe I should have done 2 stripes. Maybe that would have been more fun. But you know what? It's way too late now. So it's come out well. I'm pleased with it. It's got some good drape. Shall I show you the drape? Show you the drape. A little bit of good drape there. And that is good to go. Now, last time I spoke to you, which was a couple of weeks ago now, I had a yellow thing with some textured yarn on it on the little loom. And I can describe that to you, or I can just show it to you because I've got it down here. Now, this came off the loom only yesterday because life has been very lifey. And we are in phase 1 of this experimental project. Is that a gap that I misjudged? No, it's just the way I was holding it up. Because my whole world was about to crumble at the thought that I had made even one tiny mistake. Anyway, this is about to be processed further before wet finishing. That sounds very fancy. For what I'm about to do, I'll show you that close up. So all of these floats are going to be snipped in half so that I'm just going to cut up the middle on this side, cut up the middle on this side. And what that will give me is a row of these little ends. And then when I wet finish, those ends will puff up into little pom-poms, theoretically. I did test the yarn. I don't sample, but I did test this chunky yarn, because it's an acrylic, to make sure that it would fluff. And it does fluff, so it should work. This very technical talk again. So the other side's actually quite nice. I like the other side. It's a lot more subtle. It's just the 3 dots of the colour. And I really like how that looks. So this yarn is not secured at all. If I go along and pull on these, all of these threads will come out. It's not part of the weave structure. So if I do that, and I'm not going to do that, but if I did, the weave would still hold together because this is a supplemental yarn. Slow down. This is a supplemental yarn for decorative purposes. It's not part of the structure and it's not holding anything together. It's fine even though it's not secured because when I wet finish this, the yellow yarn, which is wool, will both bloom and shrink. And if you refer back to my fabulous definitions earlier, what that will mean is basically it will shrink down around this chunky yarn and hold it in place. I think. I didn't sample, so we're going to find out. So this one might be ready to show you next week, maybe. What I should have done is cut all these floats while I was working instead of leaving them all to the end. But I didn't think that far ahead, which is not like me. So we'll see how that one goes. It should be ready for next week. I make no promises on that though. Now, on the little loom, I've got, well, I'll just show you. I don't know why I'm trying to describe stuff to you when it's in front of me. I can just pick it up and show you. So I've got on the little loom, let me just get this organised. I've got this on the little loom. So this is a rainbow yarn so that you can see the stripes there. That's a rainbow yarn and that's a rainbow yarn. And I didn't have a lot of that yarn because it was a mini skein. So I did the market on Sunday, and as a thank you for doing the market, Melissa, who is the person behind Changeling Coloured Yarns, who does magic things with colour, she's one of the organisers of the market, so she gave a lot of people a little mini skein of this rainbow yarn as a thank you for being part of the market. So I didn't have a huge amount, and I wandered around trying to think what I was going to match it with. And I thought I would actually match it with a blue, but I couldn't find a blue that tonally matched the blues. Like, you might think blue is blue, and to a degree that is correct. But tonally, blue can be very different, as can all colours. So I didn't have a blue in my stash that I really particularly liked with this rainbow yarn. And then I remembered that I had some Go Handmade Tencel Bamboo, I think it's got bamboo, well, it's Tencel Bamboo Double, so let's see what's in it. I'm wearing the wrong glasses. It's 40% Tencel, 60% bamboo. And it's shiny. You might be able to see a little bit of a shine there. It's amazingly soft, and it is a squid. I described it. I was on Mastodon last night talking about how I needed to calm down a little bit because I was a bit grumpy and I was going to do some weaving, and then I warped this up and I had to say so many words that a lady shouldn't say, and I'm not saying them on the internet. It's beautiful. Like, it's soft, it's shiny, it's silky, but it grabs hold of itself in a way that I have never encountered before. And so I wind my yarn into a cake before I warp up. And the reason, I'm just going to put this down so I can talk with both hands. Thanks. So the reason I do that, I wind into a cake. So these are the commercially available balls. And if you pull out the centre, what you usually get is what is very delicately referred to as yarn bath, where a big sort of blah of yarn comes out with the end. So I wind everything into cakes so that it sits flat on the floor or the table, and I can centre pull and everything's nice and everything's smooth. The thing about this stuff is the end bit, because you wind it into a cake and then you tuck the last end into the outside bit, just untucks itself, grabs onto the working yarn, and then completely makes an entire knot, and I don't know how it does it. Now, because it's slippery, a little bit of jiggling will make the knot fall apart usually. I do have some that I ended up cutting off because I had said terrible words to it, and just gave up because it was about 11 o'clock at night, which is not the time to be warping up anything. Anyway, I'll show you this again and you'll see what I'm up to with it. So it's very fresh on the loom. Oh, this is going so well down here. There we go. And you will notice that it is off center, and the reason for that is because I can't count. I thought I could count. So you see there that it's a little bit more on that side than on that side. That's because I can't count. And like everybody else, I did think I could count. And if you think you can count, take up some yarn crafts. Take up weaving, crochet, knitting, and you will discover that you can't count because no one can. So I ended up with this stripe here was going to be on the outside edge, which ordinarily wouldn't trouble me. However, Tencel doesn't have a lot of stretch in it, and this is wool, so it does. And I didn't want a very stretchy side and a not very stretchy side. It's doable, it's possible. If you take your time and take a deep breath and go slowly and concentrate, it's all fine. And I wasn't in the mood to do any of those things. So I just added on the more of the Tencel on this side and put it off center. On a little loom like this, it's not going to make any difference. On the big loom, having something very off-center can mean that your fell line, which is this top line here of the weaving, goes on a diagonal, which you probably don't want. You might. I don't know. It depends what you're weaving. So that is on the little loom. As you can see, there's my hem stitching, fresh on the loom. And it is going quite well. And the Tencel is weaving up very nicely. I was a bit worried it was going to be irritating. But it is behaving itself now that it's on the loom. So that should be, I was going to say should be off the loom for next week. I don't know. As I said, things are busy. Not in a bad way, just in I'm an adult and it's irritating way. So speaking of changeling coloured yarns, the big loom is going back into play shortly, which breaks my rule. I made a rule for myself that I wasn't going to use the big loom until I had done all of the sewing that I planned to do. Now, the problem there is I haven't done any of the sewing. I've done a little bit of the sewing. And the problem there is that I've ordered more fabric to make a dress out of. When I say fabric, it's bed sheets. It's bed sheets with dogs on them. They're amazing. They're on special and it's going to be the best dress. So I've got a growing list of things that I want to sew. And the plan was to keep the big loom out of play because it takes up a lot of room on that table, which is a very full table, and to not use the big loom until the sewing is done. And that was a rule that I had made for myself. I don't know if other people, I know some other people make rules for themselves like that. And so far I have stuck to that rule. However, speaking of changeling coloured yarns, spotted pardalote. This was a colourway that Melissa did for the market. It is based on the bird, the spotted pardalote. I'm just going to untwist this so you can see it. Oh, it's so nice. She put it up on Facebook a couple of days before the market and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you take cards, don't you? So, yes, of course I will buy that, Melissa. So it's the spots from the spotted pardalote, which is represented with the white, and then the reds and oranges, which is represented with reds and oranges and yellows. because I left out yellow. So this is, I've got 2 of these. This is going on the big loom as soon as I get, I've got yarn coming from Bendigo Woolen Mills, which is the same weight as this, because I do have black in my stash, but it's a thicker black, and I want a balanced weave with this, because I'm going to pull these colours so that they will go horizontally across the weave, even though they're in the warp. I talk a big game. I don't know that I'm going to be able to actually do that, but it should work. It should work. So I've got 2 of these so that I can make a wide piece, and I'm very excited about it because look at it. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. So the big loom will be back in play, maybe for sort of one project only, and then I will get back to the sewing perhaps. I hope. I'm looking around and I've got so many things to sew. I've got so many things to sew and weave and all the rest of it. Anyway, it's all fine. Now the cross stitch. Progress has been a little slow on that as well, because video games, and also tired. I usually cross stitch at night before I go to bed, and I've just been tired, so I haven't done that much. But anyway, the last time I showed you the cross stitch, it looked like this, and I couldn't actually tell you which bits I've done since then, but it is currently looking like this, and I have done some bits. I have started working on the white patches, because I realised I didn't want to leave all of the white patches till last, because then I would be bored. So I've done, I said that, but I don't know the, oh no, not that white patch, obviously. So I've filled in some of these little white patches up on the feathers. I'm starting on this bird's cheek. I was going to say I thought I'd done up here, and I haven't. I must have done that bit in my head and then forgot to actually do it. So that's how the cross stitch is looking. It's getting there. If I was a little bit more dedicated with the time that I spent on it, it would be well and truly finished. But it is getting there, and I am still having a lovely time with it. And that is all I have for you this week. You take care of yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, and enjoy the start of next week. I think it's that time of year you need to treat yourself. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.